a couple quick things. Just want to ask you all, what are you mainly looking for today, topic-wise? What's going on in your life? What's going on in the world? What do you see people struggling with that you'd like us to cover somehow today?
Peace.
Peace. Very good. Good. Trust. Good. Yes? Surrender. Okay. Peace, trust, surrender. Now, here's what you're supposed to do when something like this happens and, you know, people are asking you to do something like that. You're supposed to roll your eyes up into your head. The presence is now coming, and a being from the planet Xerox is about to speak through me. We could do that for special effects so that people go, wow, that was amazing, he channeled. We don't have to. We just choose it, and it happens, to be honest. You just choose it. How you parent, how you partner, how we do everything can just be, we get in the habit of just knowing how to pause for a moment, in our minds just say, here I am, and then the rest happens. I don't think it's necessarily easy for everyone to believe that, but that's inevitable for us all. We don't all have to go into trances. We don't all have to stand on one foot and do pranayama breathing. We don't all have to have specific herbal formulas before we teach or parent or whatever we do. Instead, we can realize there is no separation between myself and God. That means God is right here, and all I have to do is let go and let God. A bit of that question of surrender, talking about surrender, forgiveness, peace. So, yes?
Preparation for how different the next few years may be. And I think we already started.
Yes.
And we don't know what it's going to be, but it looks to me like it's very, very different.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind, the last question is dealing with changes in the world, country, and so on. There's no doubt every time you have a different leadership, well, even if it's a step-parent entering in where there was a parent in a household, changes take place. Mainly our job is that no matter what happens on the outside, we have to maintain our inside and not have anything contingent on the outside. I'm not going to spend time, obviously, prophesying about the bizarre things that are going to be happening. No. What I do know is trust. Let God be your guide. The Israelites understood the importance of God being the guide. Gradually then humanity learned instead of God being our guide, we start supplementing God with a ruler. Monarchies and, tyrants and all this kind of craziness. There will come a time where we don't need people to tell us how to be, think, and behave once we know how. As soon as we start letting our hearts be our guide, there's just an inner knowingness. There's a great movie, if you've ever seen it. I brought it up a few months ago, I think, K-Pax. And it's Kevin Spacey playing this being that seems to have come from another world and is on Earth. Gradually he's being interviewed by people about who he is and how he knows what he knows. But just getting to the point where the sarcastic psychologist is saying to him, so what are things like on your planet and so on and so on? And he's and the alien is saying, we don't have rules and laws. And then he says, well, wait, you're saying that people can just act any way they want? They can cause harm? How do they know what's right if there's no rules and laws? And K-Pax responds and says, every being in the universe knows right from wrong inside themselves. And that's sort of what I'm saying. We all have it. But the truth is we don't want to know because we have convenience. I know what's right, but I want what I want. Right? I know that if I'm leaning towards addiction, it's probably not a good idea for me to engage and indulge in that addiction. But right now I'm going to just put that aside because I have some issues to cover up or mask or numb myself with. And, so we go for it. It's all about ego convenience. But when the voice of God grows so much within us, by nurturing it in us, it's there perfectly, but we're in the way. As we learn to tip the scales, where the voice of God is not down, in that place of low priority, there's a point where it tips the scales. God rather than ego self. When we want it badly enough, it happens. It's the choice for that. a metaphor I've also shared many times over my many years of teaching. The old image of the monk the Buddhist monk who has this disciple or this student come to him and says, show me God. How can I find God? And he's persistent. I want to know God. I want to find God. So the monk takes him as though he's going to baptize him, takes him out to this little lake or bay or water, whatever, takes him into the water, submerges him, and the guy kind of, oh, okay, it's a baptism. I'm going to be blessed and I'm going to somehow see God. This is great. Goes underwater and the guy sits and, at first, baptism. And he's held under there a little longer and the guy's starting immediately to think, well, okay, well, where's God? Where's, this is getting annoying. Where's God? I see fish, but no God. So, then the guy's thinking, well, this is ridiculous. And he goes to get up and the monk's holding him under longer. He's trying to get up, holding him under longer. He's trying to get, pretty soon the guy's needing to get up. The guy holds him under longer and longer and longer. Only at that very last second does he allow him up. When the guy's just about to, die, he lets him up. The guy comes out of the water, gasping for air. And the guy says, when you want God that badly, you'll find him. Meaning, when you want nothing else. See, there was in that moment, the guy wanted nothing but air. When you want nothing but God, that's when we find God. And I'm not trying to give you an insurmountable task or a daunting thing. Oh, you have to be that desperate. I don't mean to turn you off. But it's a gentle thing. It doesn't have to be harsh and studious and seem so big. The truth is, when we want love that much, then we start to find love. But there's this process that has to happen. As I shared earlier today, we have to empty our cup, the old saying. What would you like to learn? Well, I want to learn this. The master says, wait, your cup's already full. You already think you know what you want to learn. You already think you've already learned it. So the students, and that's all of us, not once, every day of our lives, we have to be willing to say, I don't know. Show me. That humility, and I've said this many times in my years, that I do not know, show me, is the prayer of the divine feminine. The prayer of the divine feminine is not as follows. Thank goodness and goddess that we, females, are finally going to rise up and destroy all males and be powerful and rule the world. Because now you're just men. I mean, that's what you are. Now you're just guys again. Different anatomy, but you're being males. She's wanting air. See, when you want God as badly as you right now, you need air. We never know what I'm going to say, do we? But that's it. That's the prayer of the divine feminine. So listen carefully. We talk about let's have the coming Messiah. Let's have Maitreya, whatever name you want to give it from any culture. The Christ, the second coming, whatever. That thing cannot be birthed into the world without a woman. It can't be birthed. So when people always, they say, oh, the Dalai Lama and this master and that says, women are the key to... They're all misunderstanding. It doesn't mean female women. It means female in every one of us. We will never know God without knowing first our feminine nature, spiritual feminine. And the spiritual feminine is to be able to say, instead of I know, the guys, let's rule, let's conquer, it's in all of us we have to learn to say, I'm willing to be shown. I'm open. That open-mindedness creates our perfection. The last shall be first, Jesus said, and the first shall be last. That's what that means. Learn to set aside the little ego self, which is commonly manifested in a dominant male energy, and instead allow this perfect, brilliant soul, this bright light inside that says, the last shall be first, the first shall be last. So the last first. When I say I don't know, I'm bowing my ego humbly to the ground so I can rise in the new self. But if you want to birth a Messiah, a Christ, a Maitreya, whatever, if you want to birth this, you've got to have a woman. Because they give birth, metaphorically. So where's the woman at? We have a Mary 2,000 years ago for Jesus. Where's your woman? Mom didn't get it, apparently. She missed the memo on how to be a Christed woman and give birth to a Christed child. So now what are we going to do? Who's going to give birth? The divine woman, feminine in me, is going to birth the Christ child at this Christmas holiday. Please remember, the birth of Jesus is a commemoration. It's not a one and only story. It's a commemoration of the birth of Christ when we were all created. All it is a commemoration. We celebrate the birth of Jesus, but that's not what we need to be celebrating. We're supposed to be recognizing that the birth of this individual was to remind us that we're also that same perfect child that was birthed by God in the beginning of our creation. So then what's the second coming? The second coming is when we remember who we are and start bringing it forward through acts of love and forgiveness. That's the message. It's not about how do we awaken and, wow, we're going to change the world, the right candidate, the right Om Mani Padme and Boom Shakalaka and all these kinds of things is going to change the world. We're all heading there. Pretty soon, I promise you, 11/11, 12/12, 80/80, 20/20, whatever dates, it's all happening, and planetary alignments, and soon there will be a UFO in every car garage, and the whole world's going to change. That's not how it's happening. Right in here, consciousness. We change consciousness, not the world, so that we have a different consciousness. We change the consciousness so that we see a different world.
Yes.
And it's a day at a time. It won't be the candidate. It won't be it will not be through religion. And I've been firm about that lately, but I'm still being firm about that. It's not going to happen. And I enjoy saying that to people all over the planet. I think it's fine if you like religion or addiction or abuse, or if that's what you like. I'm not equating the two. I'm channeling. It isn't me. It's not my fault. But you guys, we cannot birth.
Combination, though.
What's that?
Maybe some combination.
Yes. Now, it's not. You don't have the Christ without the Divine Mother. You will not have spirituality without bidding farewell to the old, the past. And that includes religions and such. As we know religion, it will not make the transition. Structure, laws, rules, opinions will not be able to make the transition into the light. I've tried a lot of my life, a lot of my years, and you guys know, if you know me at all, you know that I'm all about bridging and looking for the common good and so on. But I am saying, it's becoming very clear to me. I've done what I can to pitch in and help out, and I think there's goodness in all people, there's goodness in all religions. But I'm also seeing the religions are not going to let go and ascend into spiritualities. They don't know how. They're not made to do that. They're made to have still been about fear. Fear doesn't know how to become love. And some people won't like hearing that. They'll go, yes, it can't. No. Fear they're mutually exclusive. You can't have love and fear at the same time. So the very presence of fear means you don't have love. The presence of love casts out fear, according to the Bible. So we can't have the two. So the organizations that want to drive it home, that things called religions, this is how it's going to happen. They're just going to sink. It's a rock. The waters come of a new life. The rock doesn't ascend with the waters. The rock just sits at the bottom. And the waters rise. And we're hoping, come on, you can do. Oh, wait, where'd religion go? It's not there. And you and I have to ride those new waters. We have to ascend. How? You have to be lighter than water. That's how you do it. If you're lighter than water, you lift. And that's where we're going. And that's what spirituality is about. It's about rising in new consciousness. And most of all through love, through forgiveness. It's not going to be through all the exercises, techniques, and demands that, don't eat fish on this day and be sure you do this. And the church said this, but next year it changed its mind. And it's like, wow, this is, it's like bizarre. How do I keep up with the rules? By not listening to them anymore. We learn to be the presence. We learn to be the great masters ourselves. Look at how masters taught. Become the ascended master Moses. Have the same courage Moses had. Have the same courage Christ had, the same courage Mother Teresa or whomever you rever or respect for being in their power. This person Moses, somebody brought that up in the first service, but this person Moses, the whole idea, going up the mountain, talking to God, tablets, carved with the laws. For that time, it's perfect. But in reality, everything we ever learn or hear about, we're supposed to become it. Not have it as a ritual externally, but it has to become a ritual internally. Let's say, for example, you go and participate in a ceremony out in the rocks here, or wherever it happens to be, in any country, in any place. You go and engage in these things. Now, let's say you break a leg. Darn it, I can't go and do my ritual, so now I don't get my spirituality. You're forgetting something. You're supposed to have had it inside all along. So there's never anything outside, therefore you can't really lose anything. Instead, you just go, I'm going to have all my best meditations I've ever had, I'm going to have them right here on my couch with my leg up. Because there isn't anything that has any power outside of ourselves. So religion's far out spent its time. It's spent its energy. It's spent most of its message. It's still great. I still love seeing people that go to churches feeling dedicated and devoted. But it's the love and the people that I love. Not the structures and the rules and the craziness. And not the you're going to go to hell kinds of concepts. And it's not just like Christian. I'm saying religion as a structure. Somebody was saying something to me recently. Michael, I even tried Buddhism. And then I was noticing there's people at our temple that are chanting for new cars. They do a chant as though I'm chanting for a new car. I'm chanting for a bicycle. I'm chanting. So they're also becoming misguided. There's nowhere in the teachings of Buddha that would lead you that direction. He's talking about chanting a state of enlightenment. And then with the enlightenment, you can create whatever you need. But he didn't say put the chant about, a mantra, paper towels, paper towels, paper towels, paper towels. Like, just what? Like, just send her into God and go buy some paper towels. Like, that's also an okay way to get them. Anyway, humans. Man. In any case, so this idea, Moses goes to the mountaintop. He sees God, gets these tablets, but at the same time, you and I are supposed to be like that ascended master. We're supposed to rise within ourselves to the mountaintop. We're supposed to commune with God. The fiery bush becomes the neurons firing, the synapse firing, the messages of God being in all your brain, your skull, your tentorium, is and the web up in the skull is being activated and enlightened. You're communing with God up on the mountain. And when you hear, and God gives you tablets, what it means is God will give you guidance for the day. Just like it did for the Israelites, God will also guide you every day. So, God, I go to a certain church and I'm confused because they tell me, we're going to go to hell, or they tell me this and that, whatever it happens to be that disturbs you. Go up in the mountaintop yourself. Buddha said no more to Hinduism, not because Hinduism is bad, quote unquote, but he said there's things about that religion and every religion, there's things about this religion that don't make sense. It says in the tradition of Hinduism, all this wonderful stuff is in there. But there's one thing he says, this idea that you just have to reincarnate for billions of lifetimes before you'll ever get it. He said, I don't buy that. I think a person can get it by choice in the now. Secondly, he said that system, although brilliant pieces, I don't agree where they tell you if you're born in a certain caste, you have to stay in that caste. If you're born poor, you will stay poor. If you're born in this caste or that caste, royalty, everybody's born in their positions, and there you have to stay. He's like, well, I don't get it. Where's free will? Anybody can prosper. They used to say, oh no, if you're born in a certain position, know your position, know your place. And he's saying, no. Women don't have to stay in the place they've been told to be. Men don't have to stay over here. Children don't have to stay over there. He's saying free will. So he's saying break out of those places that keep you limited. Now, are you, that sounds cool. We all go, yeah, that's pretty cool. But wait, what about you? Do you have the courage to break out? Do you have the courage to be like Mother Teresa that says, I'll go amongst disease and do my work? Can you be like Moses and say, Pharaoh, free my people? Which means to yourself, you have aches. Free my people will mean, let's get to yoga and start opening the body up instead of just complaining about it being a slave to pain. Pharaoh, ex-partner, current husband-wife partner, enough. Enough is enough. You're mean to me at times and this won't work for me. And the problem is, Moses got the people and left. The difference between Moses and ourselves at times is we still allow the voice of fear to make us decide it's better to stay enslaved than to free. Why? Because we don't know what will happen and what it'll look like when we come out. What's going to happen? And after he frees the Israelites, there a few, there problem after problem, they start to say, Moses, we should have just stayed in Egypt as slaves. At least we knew where we would live each day. We're just wandering the desert. Well, that's what happens to you and I. We would rather stay in that strange place of familiar but unhealthy than to venture out. And I had also brought up earlier that what happens is the cup has to be emptied. If the cup has pain, let's imagine its metaphor is poison. If you have poison in a cup, and you go, well, it's definitely poison. If I drink, I'm going to get sick or die. You know what I need is to put some water in there. The poison isn't gone. You just added water to it. How about if I add more water? Great. You can even put enough water to let it overflow. Some of the poison's going to drain out, but not all of it. You need to clean out your cup. Empty the poison, which means the past, the programs, wherever they come from. Even at the risk of those people not being satisfied. Even at the risk of people being, disapproving. Free my people. Can I do that? Well, you're not going to be, you're not going to ascend into heaven without first becoming a master. Moses is an ascended master. I don't know that I've heard anybody teach that out there in the world, but Moses is an ascended master. And if you want to get to heaven, you have to do at least what this kind of a person can do. Martin Luther King, knowing he was at the threat of being killed, but he still pushes through to do what needs to be done. But that doesn't mean you have to go and do exactly what these people did. Where's your own version of that? Free my people could simply mean, I don't like the job I'm at. I don't have to, kick the doors down tomorrow morning and say, CEO, free my people. Give us all checks without having to work. That's too much and you're going to get fired. What I'm saying is, start planning and looking for your soul's purpose. So one day you have decided, free my people means I now found my soul's purpose and I changed jobs. In a gentle way rather than pushing the envelope and getting fired. Free my people. I'm not going to live in pain anymore. I'm going to start doing yoga and get massages. Free my people. Time to have communications workshops or partnership counseling or whatever it is. Not settling for anything less. Now we empty the cup. Emptying the cup means, yes, of course, practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean enabling. Forgiveness does not mean you flippantly say, I forgive you, and then all of a sudden you expect it to be done. Forgiveness is actually a process of authenticity. So we have to be able to show up and really see what's going on. So what are we going to do? Forgiveness. Empty the cup. That means recognizing certain things are not working. Don't hate anyone about what they've done, because that keeps you hooked to them. Somebody's abused you and you hate them, it actually keeps you karmically hooked to them. So then what we do is go, well, then I refuse to be karmically hooked. Done. You're not done. Just because you're more adamant about it doesn't mean you're done. You have to say, I refuse to hate the person, number one. You've heard me say this before, but number two, what can I learn from this experience? I didn't say make the experience good. I didn't say call the experience good. If somebody hurts you, you don't have to say, okay, yeah, I was bothered, but instead I'm going to say, well, that was fun. That was great. I'd like more of that. In fact, if I lived 10 more lifetimes, I would like every lifetime to have more of that, because I'm so healed. No, I refuse to hate the person. I refuse to hate the person. Secondly, I'm willing to look at my lessons. And third, I affirm that no matter who they are and what they've done, in them there is a light made in God's image. That's my job. I know that if I'm willing to not hate them and learn my lesson, because that's responsibility, and affirm that there's a light in them, that means I actually must have something going on for real about forgiveness. Because if I am not really forgiving, I will not say I refuse to hate him. If certain kinds of people have been hurt, right? They refuse to say that. But even if you could sneak the fine, I'm not going to hate him. But there's no lesson for me. This was what they... So you're still not getting it. But let's say you can get both of those. And you say, but I'm not affirming there's a light in them. They're bad people. You're still not forgiving. Forgiveness would mean you're able to know all three of those, feel all three of those, practice all three of those. Then you know you're probably on the right course. And that wraps up the past, puts a bow on it, and allows it to move on. Now there's one more piece to the old going before we can affirm and bring in the new. The seeds of the new are actually going to be there, even though sometimes we talk about planting new seeds. Technically, a good number of those seeds are already going to be there, planted for us by Spirit when we've done our healing work. But we still need to water and feed them. That's where your affirmations come in, your good decrees and affirmative prayers, visualization. That helps water and feed the seeds of a new life. But there's something else that has to happen here. To wrap up the past, yes, look at the hurts. Yes, practice authentic forgiveness. And one more piece. The final piece is the one most people forget about. And this is where you learn to say, the most commonly used axiom or proverb or affirmation or whatever of the ego is, if only. So before I can move from the past to the new, I have to be willing to say goodbye to every wish and hope that I have inside that something would not have happened. I wish it would have happened this way. I wish my mother would have loved me more. I wish my father would have hugged me more. I wish my siblings didn't compete so much. Any wishing and hoping actually keeps you tied to those people. So instead, you have to take out the garden shears and say, even at the risk of losing this person, I'm letting go of my hope they would have been different. I'm letting go of all hope that people would have been different. I wish my mother would have done a nice water birth. She didn't. Clip. FYI, she didn't. Clip. But I wish she had. Now you're actually karmically hooked to, where is my water birth? And guess what? You can't ascend into heaven with tentacles. You have to look more like an angel than a squid. So, don't quote me on that. Okay? But you can't. It doesn't work. You got these tentacles all suctioned into things. So over here, I wish something would have been different. And we think it's totally innocuous. We think it's kind of okay and it's not a big deal. I'm telling you that even when we're doing rituals and goodbye ceremonies and cord cutting and Archangel Michael, bring the sword, and all these beautiful things, if in you there's a subtle wish that something would have been different, you're still hooked. And there's reasons why we do that. First of all, believe it or not, it's subtle control. It's also a demonstration of conditional thinking rather than unconditional. How do I know that? Because I have conditions. I wish they would have, and I'm not going to be at peace until they do. So we talk about peace. We talk about how do we get peace? How do we get joy? How do we deal with the future, like politics and how the next few years are going to look? Let go of, there's an old saying, abandon ye all hope. Which sounds like a really negative statement. But it means your opinion of what you think needs to happen. Abandon all hoping and wishing that something will be the way you want it to be. That's how we get it. We're bidding farewell and we're learning to accept. Acceptance does not mean, well, I guess I'll accept, things as they are. That's a pitiful thing. That's not true acceptance. True acceptance means it didn't happen, so I guess snip. But the ego self doesn't like that. And then the ego is going to use something to make sure you do not practice this. And it's going to say, In case you get some crazy idea, because I notice you have shears in your hand, little psychic shears, I'm noticing. So if you're thinking about cutting ties, I just want you to know, first of all, you could hurt their feelings. Oh, I don't want to do that. What kind of God do you worship anyway? Is that an unloving God that would want you to snip ties? Those people didn't mean to hurt you. Or, they had issues. Okay, put the shears down. It's going to try that. It's also going to try this. If you snip them all, what's going to happen to you then? Who will be your mother, your father, your siblings? Who will be your partners? At least you have an ex-partner. Yeah, they were terrible, but at least you can go, well, there was my ex-partner. You have something. Do you want to just go, I have nothing? That's called the void. That is called the abyss in some mythologies and traditions, where souls have been asked to just free fall into darkness that is way beyond any darkness humans can comprehend in their intellectual mind. It's a darkness that is so dark, it's silent times a billion. It's darkness times a billion. Nothingness, emptiness. We're like, I don't want emptiness. I would rather have images of people that I don't even like than to have no image at all in my mind. At least if I have a past, I have something. It wasn't very good, but it's mine. It's terrible, but it's my terrible past. And this is how we live. So what are you going to do with it? I'm going to just trust. Free my people. Even if Pharaoh's going to yell at me and threaten to kill me, free my people. I'm going anyway. And you free fall into the abyss. But that free fall doesn't go into an abyss. It goes into an abyss for a moment. But on the other side of what's also known as the silence in meditation is not more silence. On the other side of silence in meditation is supposed to be the light of God. When we free fall, we're really just free falling into the valley of the shadow of death, where we need not fear any evil or darkness because God is with us. Not God will eventually be with us. God is with us. But what do we do? So I shared this quick story many, many years ago in a mastery workshop I was doing, one of my 5-day mastery intensives. I think it was the first time I had done this exercise with a group, but we had a group, a couple dozen people out at this retreat, and we did one of the exercises where we use a tall ladder. You get up the tall ladder. Some use like a 3-step. Oh no, not us. So we get this tall ladder. People get to the top. They're supposed to just fall back and everybody catches them. Yeah, I'm that kind of teacher. So just try it. And of course people are like, oh my God, and tears and panic and going through stuff to get there. And they, and a couple, if I remember correctly, maybe physical limits, only went up a few steps and fell and let us catch. But it's still perfect, successful. Why? Because to their whatever number of steps they felt like they could do, they still trusted enough to fall. And without fail, I don't remember anybody not doing it, except me. So at some point, and I wasn't even thinking about that, but at some point we're packing up and somebody goes, oh, well, Michael, let's catch you too. I'm like, damn. Up the ladder. Now I didn't say anything. I didn't show anything. But inside I'm like, I could feel my heart beating. I could feel like a chill and my nerves in my skin. I could feel the stomach. The whole bit's happening. So, but I'm, outside I'm like, okay. Up the ladder, I'm like, oh, I can't believe this. Top of the ladder. And the thing is, again, I have to wait. And they say, we're ready. And then you go. And now when I was done, they were like, oh, that was incredible, Michael. You're amazing. No wonder you're the teacher. You went to the top. Not only did you fall, you leapt. You like lifted off boom, into the arms, And I lay there for a second, and then we all said, okay. And then I get up and go, let's go, guys. And they're like, God, that dude is something courageous. What they don't know is that when I'm up there, I'm like, think of nothing else. Because I felt terrified, fear of heights. You're blindfolded, you're falling from way up, and yes, they're going to catch you, presumably, but that's not the point. The lower mind isn't going to go there. It's going to go into terror. Not the good. It's going to go into what might happen or not happen. So I just leapt. They caught me. I centered. I just, kept up with myself and felt the heartbeat. And when they were done, they lifted me up and then we left. But I did tell them the truth. I said, I know it looked all cool and wonderful, and it did because I chose to do that. I chose to do it right. But inside, I still had to battle the voice of terror. You see? We have to be willing to fight that voice of terror, battle that voice of terror. Be willing to confront it and walk through it. Moses, or Pharaoh, free my people and leap. But I felt as much afraid, if not more maybe, than other people doing the exercise. But what are you going to do with the fears? Let them keep you hostage? So by them calling me on it, having me go up the ladder, I got to demonstrate for myself and whomever else, this is how it's done. Feel the fear and move anyway. It's, you're not needing to say, if you feel the fear, you must be a failure. You just accept it. There it is. But I chose, when I'm at the top of the ladder, keep my focus. See the fear, see them. Yes, I could feel the heart, I could feel the stomach, I could feel the nerves. Center and just get ready. Focus on where you're going. Not what the ego tells you of the past, what might happen, but where we're going. When they said ready, I just leapt. Is that making sense? Yeah. So we have to abandon all hope. We have to learn to say, here I am, and leap. The divine feminine prayer, here I am. And by saying, here I am, I don't know, we are made into goddesses, and then the goddess can birth the Christ child, and then we have a perfect wedding, alchemical wedding between the divine masculine and feminine. Where? Right here. Oh, I was still hoping for a partner that was going to be that for me. No, here. Now, if you birth that within yourself, even a 10% version of that, you're more likely going to create other people that are going to match you at that level of a chemical bliss between the masculine and feminine. If you keep negating that that's in you, both are in you, you're going to still look for it outside, and it will not work. And you'll just stay in that proverbial hamster wheel looking for the relationship that finally becomes fulfilling. And they can only feign that. They can only look like it for a little while. If I partner with you and we really connect, that's great. But if we fail to see the need to keep nurturing our own balance and our own evolution, eventually something's going to catch up to us and show us that. So we keep the work, we keep the movement into higher consciousness. Even if you're already in a partnership, keep doing the work to raise consciousness. Maybe, sharing that walk together obviously is an ideal thing. If that's not happening in your partnership, still maintain and choose to do it yourself, within yourself, for yourself. So the ego keeps saying, if only. So that means when you say, I'm not saying to numb or suppress hurts. That's not what I'm saying at all. Cry about them, scream about them, process them, journal them, vomit them, do whatever you want to do to get the old hurts out. I'm not saying suppress. But I'm saying that at some point, you do your work to get that energy moving and out. Then there will come a moment when you, or I hope all your healers and counselors out in the world know this, but they should get you to also say, now, any hopes and wishes that it would have been different, they have to die today. So I'm going to bid farewell to everyone as I wanted them to be and accept them as they are. I'm not even going to call it good or bad because I don't care, because I'm going here. I don't have to put a label, a stamp on you. Good, bad, a 1, a 4-star, a 5-star. I don't need to, because what I care about is what's going to be happening inside here. I bid farewell unconditionally and I leap into the abyss. I leap knowing I have no partner, I have no male, I have no female, I have no mom, dad, no wishing, willing. You abandon ye all hope that they would have been different. And now what? Oh my God, that's terrible. There's nothing left. There's just darkness. It won't stay dark. Just hang with that. Leap. But where have they all gone? Where have they all gone? Imagine doing a healing process. One healing process I used to do more often in a healing workshop. And it was one of the most intense things that I ever did in healing workshops. There's a lot of things I can ask you to do and say in healing, and sometimes verbal, sometimes energetic, body work and all that. But one of the most significant I ever remember doing is having folks bend backwards over like an exercise ball. Bending backwards because there's a lot of reasons for this, but it sort of is getting the conscious mind out of the way. But you bend over backwards and you hold a pillow and you can kind of shake it. but you're bent over backwards and you start, because you know your voice is like this and you can't easily breathe, that's good, because we're going to override all your typical defenses and systems. Now you might say something like, oh, this isn't comfortable. Okay, good. And get you to say some other things, some spontaneous things, not conscious head stuff. But the one line that was always very, very weird in a profound way, but, you know, why didn't you love me, for example, to mom, to dad, or whomever you can think of? I was never enough. And it starts bringing up this powerful stuff, which I'm sort of channeling now, so just try to feel that. I was never enough. You know, and you start to feel these feelings, and you're shaking this pillow, and sometimes people gasp, and sometimes they're tearing up. But the weird one I'm leading to is, where did everybody go? And there's this weird feeling, because I know when they say that, they're tapping into the archetype in all minds that's terrified of the moment when everything's gone and there's just you. And then oneness with all. But we're not there yet. Where did everybody go? And that means mom, dad, everybody, everything. It means when you're alone in a hospital bed as a child and there was nobody there, where did everybody go? It's okay. Every time there's ever been a deep feeling like that, you know, and as I bring it up, you guys are dropping into it a bit, like kind of a deep space, and then it reverberates back, and then I'm starting to choke up a little bit. Where did everybody go? What does that bring up for you? Why did this happen? Where did everybody go? There was nothing wrong with me. And think about the other words that come up when you start just spontaneously channeling the feelings and let the feelings take on words. I was just a kid. You know, one after another. It's deep stuff. There's a story I could share, but I don't think I could make it through it. So I won't go there right now. Deep. What is going on? How did we end up here? I mean, we're one with God. Then how the hell did we end up here? Oneness with God, love, peace, joy. And we're sitting around waiting for a politician to make things right for us. Mom, dad, you know, we're still waiting for them to apologize for their whatever it was, abuses or shortcomings or whatever. I'm going to accept it didn't happen. I don't want to be called to your deathbed waiting for that last shot. Hi, oh, Dad, how you feeling? Come on, apologize, you can do it. You know, in the back of your mind, an agenda. Get it now. Don't wait for your deathbed confessions. Clear everything now. Retire everyone from the roles. Goodbye. Sometimes I can still sort of wish, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm just going to mourn the loss of it. Because when you do this, you're actually mourning the loss of all hope they would have been different. You're not hoping they would have been different, wishing. You're mourning the loss of your hope that they would have been. You're mourning the loss of your idea of nurturance, love, compatibility, whatever it happened to be. I don't want to go out to the world tomorrow needing somebody to see me in the way my dad didn't see me. Mom didn't see me. Is that how we want to approach the world? Hi, listen, you don't know me, but I need you to make up for what my father didn't do. That's what we're doing unconsciously. And even those of us who didn't have, let's say, abuses, it doesn't matter. We're still projecting onto everyone our shortcomings and issues and agendas, and they can't live up to it. They can't do it. But I would rather have at least a hope that they can than nothing. And I'm saying, go with the nothing. Abandon all hope, drop into the abyss. And you find you don't fall, you float. You find that you're lighter than water. You're not the rock that sinks to the bottom. You instead ascend into a new consciousness. We are not meant to just drop into an abyss and have an experience of oblivion. That's not why God says, let it all go and trust me. Fall, just leap and fall. Give it a shot, trust. That's what we're asked to do. And our lives will never be the same. So this is how we find freedom. You're on the ladder. You're with a counselor. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty. I am free at last. You know, Pharaoh, free my people. And leap. Say goodbye to all the agenda. Say goodbye to all the attachments and the hopes. If only the ego. If only. Most couples that lose a child, they live nothing but the if only. If only one of us would have recognized it was sick. If only you hadn't left and we hadn't gotten a sitter. If only. That's not going to help. And most couples that have that kind of tragedy do not remain together for very long. Because they're living in the pain and they will not free each other from that agenda. I have to let go of all hope. Wishing inside myself. Why do you want to wish? Wish means it isn't, but I wish it were. Why not just go with what is and stay in power? I understand the wishing and sometimes feel the wish if you want to. But see it for what it is. Don't make it your reality and your affirmation. Oh, I'm feeling this. I wish so-and-so hadn't died before I said goodbye. Don't just leave it like that, because then the tentacle attaches, and believe it or not, that tentacle attaches and it doesn't experience time. Through other lifetimes, that tentacle's still there. It's an energetic psychic tentacle. So that arm, that tentacle is sucked into that. It's latched into that person. I wish such and such. Now they can pass away through other dimensions. It's still latched into us. They can actually say, what the heck is that? Oh, a tentacle from Michael or whomever, wishing I had been different. And they process and heal. They snip it. And you still have it. So that tentacle is just kind of floating in space through time, looking for someone else to plug it in. So it's going to float. I'm wishing somebody valued me more. But it's never true value because it's the illusion of the universe. So it's not true value because that comes from within. I wish somebody valued me, which means I wish somebody would pretend they valued me. And there's always going to be some psycho out there who goes, I'll do it. I'll pretend to value you, and then you give me something I want. Oh, excellent. This two-way tentacle. Boom. In. Ah, there we go. All the dysfunction locked in again. Here we go. But your tentacle will not go away without your healing. But others can snip it if they do theirs. And you can snip it if you do yours. And those people will then be out there looking for that other thing to be fulfilled. That's why we keep marrying our father, mother, whatever it happens to be, our first husband, wife, partner. We tend to recycle these things. We tend to, just regurgitate them and keep doing them. Reincarnation is not something that just happens from a soul, from one body to another. Reincarnation is also concepts that reincarnate. My unhealed stuff with so-and-so reincarnates in another person, right? It's the issues, the patterns keep reincarnating as well. We're not free just because we pass out of one life. That which is unhealed is all packaged up, strapped to us, and we take them with us. You know the old saying, you can't take it with you? Well, you can. It's just none of the stuff you would have hoped for. So our freedom comes from the surrender to this. And one last thing. I'll share this story, and I've shared it many times, but the first group this morning really, really got it because it really locked in a lot of what I was sharing. But the idea, once upon a time, let's say, there's this village. And this village has a mountain next to it, and at the top of the mountain, there's known to be a dragon. The dragon, of course, is ferocious, and so the villagers are like, hey, we've been told generation after generation, don't do anything too loud, don't arouse the dragon, let it sleep, don't upset it, don't disturb it in any way. So the villagers kind of do their best to lay low and be quiet and so on. But eventually it happened that a child is born, a child grows up, and it's a young one, and it decides it's inquisitive and it's curious, it's going to climb up the mountain. It climbs up the mountain to see what the dragon looks like. Maybe it can get a peek. So it climbs up to the mountain, it gets over the top, and finally the last part of the peak rock looks over and sees the dragon. Wow, there it is. Rock slips, wakes up the dragon. Who's there? The child's scared. I'm sorry, please, because it knows this whole village could get wiped out now because of what it did. I'm sorry, please don't be mad. Who are you? My name is, the child says, my name is such and such. What do you want? What are you doing? Well, I just have heard a lot about you and I just wanted to see you. I wanted to see what you looked like. So long story short, they have a little conversation. The dragon doesn't destroy the child, but the child says, well, thank you so much for being patient. I'm going to leave now, but thank you for talking to me. Turns to walk away, and then it turns back to the dragon and says, by the way, you know my name, but I don't know your name. And the dragon says, well, I have many names, but most people just refer to me as what might happen. So the moral of the story is the village stays in a state of fear. They're never thriving. And every one of us in this room and beyond lives like this at one time or another. Just lay low. Just lay low. You know, for me, had a not so nice dad. Get home and just go to the room. Stay away. Don't arouse the dragon. But then you're never living. You're creeping about. That's not living. You know, you stay in your room. Don't do too much. Because if he knows you're there, his mind goes right into finding problems. You know? So lay low, and that's the village. Lay low. Don't party, don't celebrate, don't praise, don't do anything too loud. Don't be in pain, don't cry too loud of what might happen. So it's a great metaphor that teaches us, you know what? Leap. Live. What might happen usually doesn't. It's something programmed into our minds, not by God, by the ego and by ego-based experiences we've had that say, lay low. There are people who say, I don't want my partner to know that I have it that good, because I had a partner when they knew how much I was enjoying the relationship, they knew they could control me through it, that they could pull it away at any minute. So I become kind of then hardened and not celebrate too much the relationship, or whatever else it is. I want to explore my sensuality or whatever in my life, whether you're an adolescent or an adult. And then you do, and something shames you. You know, it's hard to bounce back from that. I remember a young lady, probably in her 30s when I met her, talked about knowing when she was young. She just knew she had this attraction for other girls. And she and another girl were exploring and playing a little bit, and parents walked in, and it becomes a big ordeal. This is like an evil, you know? And so from then on, she's straight. But, you know, she's straight because of what happened. And so she's living now with what might happen again. So in working with her and talking to her, she was able to recognize, you know what? It's whatever I want to be. Freedom, God, peace, you know, whatever I want to be. But what if, Mom? What if? So a technique in Buddhism is to say, what if? So what if? What if they found out? Oh, it'd be bad. Really, what? Oh, they would probably disown me. Okay, cool. Now then what? Well, I wouldn't be invited to Thanksgiving. Oh, sorry. And then what? I don't know. Oh, so you're not going to spontaneously combust or anything? No. So it can't be that bad. Well, but they would disown me. Well, if they actually would shame you on such things, how close do you want to be to them anyway? Well, really, you know? So what might happen? Ask yourself then. Approach your fears head on and say, so what if it did happen? What if they found out? What if I did? Then what? And walk it through with all the options of what might happen so that there's none there holding you ransom. Walk through them. What might happen? We'll do that now in a meditation. Let's please center in.
Oops.
Centering. Tuning out the stuff of the world. Remember, when you do these prayers and meditations in groups like this, you're not doing this alone. You have the love and the support of several souls and visible souls, and then an infinite number of invisible souls supporting processes like this. Online right now, we've got people from Switzerland, Gibraltar, Argentina, Canada, South Africa. People all over the world are joining us in a meditation like this, a healing like this. And those of you in the audience that were tearing up moments ago, do you understand there was a feeling that went through these airwaves, proverbial airwaves, to all around the planet? So as you were feeling pain, they were feeling the pain with you. As you're feeling bliss, they're feeling the bliss, the prayer, the meditation. We're sharing this experience with people all around the world. So do we need to think about one person, one religion, one politician getting it when we have people all around the world joining us and already getting it? Where will I get my support? Right here. Where will I get my value confirmations that I'm on the right path? Right here. Those who do the will of God are my sisters, my brothers, my mothers, and so on. Centering and centering. Let come to mind any situation in your life that you might want to contemplate a shift of some kind, but you're not really stepping into it. It's not like you're going to be told you have to go and do something, but just try it inside. Anything that seems inhibited, relation, job, whatever it happens to be, name what it is. I would like to, I wish I could. It's okay to use the wish because it's an exercise. I wish I could. I wish someone else would be different. Then ask yourself, what if they can't? What if they won't? What if they don't? What's the worst thing that could happen? And just relax into that and keep asking that and let it keep revealing various seemingly negative options. If positives pop up, that's fine too. But allow yourselves to explore the potentially negative outcomes. What if you look into a different job? What if you are gay or straight? What if you talk to your family about abuses that they didn't want to talk about? What's the worst thing that could happen? What might happen? And then what? And then what? So even if somebody does go, or they do turn their back on you, and then what? Well, I'll be sad. And then what? Well, I might cry. Then cry. And now what? What next? Well, I don't know. Okay, is that as bad as it gets? It's not so bad. The chances are it will not result in spontaneous combustion. So what? I don't know. But if God is with me, what could be against me? If something's not expansive, why not just try something that is? Why would I lean toward familiar and negative? It doesn't make any sense. Complete that as best you can, thoroughly as you can. It actually has no power over me. I thought it did, but it doesn't. I thought they might roar, but it doesn't matter. They might disapprove, but it doesn't matter. Free at last, free at last. God Almighty, I'm free at last. I feel a sense of freedom. And keep going now, flip it towards the positive and let your cup be refilled. If I am one and guided therefore by God, peace and love, and peace starts taking me on its wings forward into a new life. Like in the book of Revelation, it says a woman who thought tragedy was coming is given 2 wings to be lifted up out of danger. The woman is us, the divine woman in us, birthing a new life. She's thinking it's not going to work, but 2 wings she's given to lift her into a new life. So let that come to us. So what would happen now if Spirit comes and lifts you and guides you? And start imagining, and then what? And then what? What if I do find my soul's purpose? And what if it does pay me very well? And then what? Oh my God, then I would have more time to do this. Great. And then what? See? More time for partnership, and then what? Greater ease, less stress, more massages, and so on. This or something better. This is my destiny. I affirm and I decree God's will for me is beyond my greatest imagination. Even on earth, I can have love, peace, joy, and abundance. I can thrive financially. I can be very sexy. I can be healthy. All these wonderful things. No matter my gender, my age, I can be all these wonderful things. I can feel free. The joints in my body can become free. My mind can become free. And when the ego even attempts to speak fear to me, it has no grip. It moves through me like Teflon rather than Velcro. It just doesn't have a place to stick. It tries to push buttons, but I have none. Because I'm living a new consciousness and a new life. And so it is.
And so it is.
Very slowly take your time to come out of that and stretch a little bit.